Hi, it's Alicia from Pretty Brown Eyed Reader. I'm coming today with my January 2021 wrap up. So I started the month off reading a book called This Close to Okay, and it's by Leesa Cross Smith. This was my first time reading the author, and this is an advanced copy of her newest novel. And so I was intrigued. And the premise of the story is a therapist. She's riding along one day and she comes across a young man who's about to jump off a bridge. And so she talks him off the bridge, and the novel unfolds over 3 days after she helps get this guy off the bridge. The premise is very interesting. However, as someone who has worked in the healthcare field, some of the stuff she does and says, I'm not quite sure a therapist would do. But then again, this is fiction, so I shouldn't try to insert real life into this novel. So one thing has me is curious about her other writing. It is set in Louisville, Kentucky, so I'm not very familiar with the state and the area, so that was very interesting. So I'm looking forward. I actually have one of her other books on my Kindle that I need to read that I've had quite a while. It's called Whiskey and Ribbons, I think is the name of that book. So that is going to be a priority for me going forward to try and take a look at that author, because I was intrigued by that book, This Close to Okay. So the next thing that I read during January was Caste, and that's by Isabel Wilkerson. I actually listened to the audio, and that was a mammoth undertaking. And the premise of Caste, it is a nonfiction book, and it talks about the history of race in America, but viewing it through a caste system. And she compares it to the caste system of India, as well as during Nazi Germany. One of the early on questions I had when listening to the book was why she didn't include South Africa in her comparison. Because one of the things about South African apartheid was that it was based off of U.S. Racial discrimination, and they amplified it. Germany, same thing. And so, but she uses Germany, doesn't use South Africa in her comparison. So I felt like maybe that would take on a whole nother beast. I'm not sure. She alludes to South Africa a couple of times in the book, but never in depth of why she doesn't include that country's racial discrimination system. But once again, she unearths a lot of horrific incidents to show how the caste system of America has been rooted in keeping black people at the bottom and not allowing black people to excel within this country. And so anyone that has questions about race, I would say this is a great book for you to take a look at and to really open your ears and your hearts to hear what Isabel Wilkerson is saying. This book was good. Don't get me wrong, she's a great writer. She's able to do a lot of research. She can present racial matters in a way that are eye-opening. But something about this book did not register to me the same way that The Warmth of Other Suns did. That book, I can go back to it and read it again. Caste, one time, I'm done. And since I was listening to it, the horrific things that she brings up, I could only probably listen to about 15 minutes of the book a day. So it took me 2 months to listen to. So, but I don't want to discourage anyone from listening or reading to it. It is a great resource book. The next book that I read in January was Milkfed, and it's by Melissa Broder. And this was an advanced copy of that book. I read Melissa Broder's book, The Pisces, a couple of years ago. And I was intrigued by the book. So when I saw that she had this one coming out and I could get an advanced copy of it, I was very excited. And the premise of this book is it's about a Jewish woman who is not so practicing her Jewish faith, and she encounters and gets involved in a relationship with someone who is a practicing Jew and is very into their family and their faith. So this brought up a lot of questions, and it was a lot of tension, but Melissa Broder, she does a very good job in writing self-absorbed characters and that make you laugh at their how self-absorbed they are in themselves, that they can't function in relationships and with others. So this one, it hits everything that if you read the Pisces about her, right, is totally different story. Totally different story. But the elements of her writing are shine through in Milkfed as well. So I read a couple of poetry collections during the month of January, and the first one I read was Blood Ties and Brown Liquor, and it's by Sean Hill. And Sean Hill is a Georgia poet, so got a rep for my peeps. And he writes about different racial incidents that happen throughout the state, especially around his hometown of Milledgeville. So his poetry reflects that. And I first read him in a poetry compilation that I had read last year, about 250, I think it was called 250 Years of Poetry, of African American Poetry. So that's why I came familiar with him, and so I looked him up and I wanted to read his collection, and it was very good. The next collection I read was a collection called UnAmerican, and it's by Hafizah Jeter, and this was a poetry collection that was recommended by Roxane Gay, and the poet, she is Nigerian and Black American, so she weaves all of her ancestry into her poems. And what we think of as being American is other people would call her and her family and what she's gone through as un-American. And she also uses some other un-Americans in that poetry collection. She talks about those that have been killed at the hands of police and at the hands of who knows, but have been highly publicized deaths like Sandra Bland, Mike Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice. She has poems dedicated to them. When I read the one about Sandra Bland, tears, everything. I just had to put the book down for a moment. Because her words just hit the emotions so hard. So that is a poetry collection I would recommend to anybody to check out. It was released in 2020, but I don't remember hearing a whole lot about it. But Roxane Gay, if she recommends it, I'm going to check it out. So I hope you'll check it out too. So my last reads of the month were book club and read along books. So for Dee Dee's from Brown Girl Reading, she started a Read So Lit Patreon book club. So in January we read House of Stone by Novuyo Rosa Tshuma, and that book, it started out slow for me. It's broken up into 3 parts. In the first part, I was like, okay, it's for book club, so I'm gonna read through it. But at the end, she kind of puts some little clues, and the second and third part was slamming. And it's about a young guy goes missing in Zimbabwe, and his parents have no idea what happened to him. But there's a guy that is living on their property. He's a renter, and he tries to insert himself into the family. So you have this eerie storyline going on. At the same time, it's giving the history of Zimbabwe independence, and it's a story of the country going from Rhodesia to Zimbabwe, but being weaved through this almost psychotic. This is her debut novel, and she killed it in this. So I would definitely recommend The House of Stone for anyone to read, and that was an excellent selection for the book club for January. The next thing I read was Mind of My Mind by Octavia Butler, and it was the selection for the Octavia E. Butler slow read along, and I'm telling you, I am not a science fiction person. I'm not a fantasy person, but the way Octavia Butler writes this stuff, I am so hooked on this series. I cannot wait to get to the next book in the pattern series. This is the second book in the pattern series. The basic of the pattern series is what happens when spirits inherit the bodies of humans, and how that manifests in our society. That's kind of, I don't want to say too much about the series because it'll kind of give it away. But anyway, that's about how much I can boil it down to. And definitely check out all of the material that's out there for Octavia Butler. It is an excellent, I have enjoyed getting to know more about her writing and her stories through this slow read along. So that was my January reading. Please let me know what you read during January. If you've read any of these, also let me know. Thanks for watching and have a great day.